Trump secretly eased sanctions against Israeli billionaire on way out. Mining magnate Dan Gertler was sanctioned in 2017 for corrupt deals with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Rights groups are calling on the Biden administration to reinstate full sanctions.
Here's a summary of the article.
In the waning hours of the Trump presidency, the U.S. reversed policy and quietly eased sanctions against billionaire Israeli mining magnate Dan Gertler. The State Department says Gertler cheated the DRC out of $1.4 billion in tax revenue over the course of a decade. The State Department sanctions barred Gertler from conducting business with U.S. citizens, businesses and banks, essentially prohibiting him from making transactions in dollars. The Sentry, a Washington, D.C. based anti-corruption outfit co-founded by actor George Clooney, says, for a sanctions designation issued specifically for corrupt and secretive activities in the Dr. Congo and elsewhere, to have been privately undercut under a cloud of haste and secrecy at the very end of the Trump administration strikes a terrible blow to the heart of one of the most lauded and effective anti-corruption programs of the last decade. Gertler, who has denied any wrongdoing, engaged law firms with ties to the Trump administration to lobby his case. Most notably, Alan Dershowitz, who represented Donald Trump in his first impeachment trial, was one of the lawyers lobbying the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, which administers and enforces economic and trade sanctions on behalf of the U.S. A last-minute license issued by the U.S. Department of Treasury and not publicly announced does not entirely remove Gertler and his companies from the U.S. sanctions list, though it does allow them to conduct business transactions, while requiring them to file reports on financial activities every 90 days. Now, the Sentry and the rights group Global Witness are urging the Biden administration to revoke this effective pardon. Global Witness said, "We call on the new Biden administration to take a strong stance against corruption by reapplying the sanctions in full without delay." The Sentry also called on banks not to open accounts or otherwise conduct transactions for or on behalf of Gertler and his network.
This post received a score of 61,000, with an upvote ratio of 86%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Wondering how much Donnie got for that. Speaking of him profiting off the presidency, Biden needs to stop number 45 from getting intelligence briefings so he can't sell them to anyone.
Wait, ex-presidents get told that kind of info? Why?
It used to be so that a current president could call a former for advice on a national security issue. Kept them in the loop since they already basically were privy to all that info in the President's Club. Edit, explaining this does not mean I think Trump needs the info. Please stop messaging me as if I'm in favor of Trump in any way.
I can't imagine a scenario where Biden would call on Trump for any advice.
If he's ever agonizing on a decision between only two choices, he could call up 45 for his opinion and then just make the opposite choice.
The Costanza approach to presidency.
Everything's coming up, George.
Read about Gertler in the book Kleptopia, about how global financiers are robbing third-world nations blind, and storing their sovereign wealth in offshore tax havens where no one can even find out who owns what. This guy is a crook.
Colonization without the slavery?
There's definitely still slavery involved.
More than ever, unfortunately.
It's safe to say slavery were involved in the making of the very devices we're on Redditing right now.
It's safe to say slavery is a major buttress of the first world lifestyle most of us live. It goes beyond devices. Coffee, jewelry, avocados, etc. ad nauseum.
Yup. I try to abstain from a lot of things and choose ethically, but it's everywhere and I'm spun into it like everyone. Sickening it is.
So the State Department under Trump sanctioned him in 2017. Treasury under Trump eased sanctions requiring financial reports every 90 days while he dukes it out in court. So Trump undid what Trump did. Now they want Biden to redo what Trump did. He'll find a way to profit without the U.S. financial system anyway, but if he's done what he's accused of, glad it's that much harder.
Gertler has blood and slavery on his hands. The guy directly financed rebel groups in the Congo that enslaved men, women and children to work in the mines. He of course profited from all of this and has given bribes directly to politicians here and in several countries. If there's any textbook example of unchecked corruption and the barbarity it leads to, it's him.
Ironic that he probably had a relative surviving the slave camp and extermination during Holocaust.
Secretly.
Yes, in mid-January Dan Gertler was given an exemption from the sanctions previously levied against him, after extensive lobbying by Alan Dershowitz. The Department of Treasury is supposed to publicly post any exemptions like this, but they didn't, and news about it didn't leak until after the Biden inauguration. More here.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.